I was delighted that Donald Trump won. Kamala Harris would have been an absolute abomination. And perhaps the greatest triumph of this entire election was that so many millions of Americans blew such a resounding raspberry to every institution in this country. What a joyful noise that was. And I don't doubt that for many whites, this election renewed their faith in America.
When Donald Trump won the election, white Christian nationalists won the election. They're not celebrating their anticipation of gas and grocery prices dropping as fast as Trump dropped those promises. They're celebrating policies that advance their false sense of superiority.
Why doesn't Patriot Front use the term white as much? And I believe that white is a great adjective more than it is an identity in and of itself. I assert that our primary use of the name of our nation, the name of our people, is Americans. We are Americans. We are not white Americans because there are no other kind of Americans than those who are white and from Europe.
The right is two things. It is Christian nationalism and white nationalism. Blending those two things together is the project that we are engaged upon right now. Those two things equal America.
You don't even have to identify them as racists and bigots that believe only their existence matters. I mean, they do that on a daily basis themselves. They voiced over and over again that Donald Trump speaks the same language that they do. So their pearl clutching was only employed to ward off the political ramifications that could have harmed their movement.
Like Vivek Haji. What's
Ramaswamy.
I had said it.
He's Indian.
He's Indian. I like Johnny Quest. But the point was, saying Haji real quick, just to cover that. No, I don't want him to be president.
Right.
It's America.
Yeah.
It's America. Okay. But anyways, and he's Hindu.
Right.
He is Haji. He's not wearing the turban, but he's Hindu. I stand by Haji. So anyways, Vivek, like he's going to say God and pass it off.
Yep.
Because he knows he's in America with, at least nominal Christian audience.
And because he went to a Catholic school. So he knows what he's saying when he says that to Americans. He knows what he is connoting.
But he'll say God a lot more than he's going to say 100%, Jesus.
100%.
Whereas J.D. Vance, who's Catholic, now, to be fair, isn't he married to a Hindu?
Yeah.
He's married to a female Haji.
Like all blatantly white supremacist movements, they'll accept help from people that belong to the groups that they despise, as long as those groups know to keep their heads down and stay in their subordinate roles. Their usefulness is worth the trouble of these bigots having to be around them from time to time, even if their presence absolutely disgusts them.
Can you imagine a country where this is Thanksgiving? Can you imagine if your children got married into a family like this and this was your Thanksgiving? What if you didn't have a lot of family? I don't have a lot of family. And what if your spouse or your children had a background like this? Your children got married into a family like this, or you married into a family like this, and this was your Thanksgiving every year. This was your Thanksgiving. This was your Christmas Eve. Maybe there isn't even a Christmas. Certainly if there is, there's no Mass. Certainly there's no Easter. Imagine if these are your holidays, these are your people, this is your community. Could you imagine how that would feel as a white person? How would it feel as a white person to be the only white face at the party, to be the only native English speaker, to be the only person with generations in a particular city? What would that feel like? What would that be like? To be the outsider, to be the alien, to be the other in your own country, on your own holiday.
It's the worst thing about old J.D. Vance, who also used to call the president-elect America's Hitler himself. But all is forgotten since he was able to assist his own Adolf in his political resurgence. Donald Trump proved his commitment to the movement when he had dinner with Nick Fuentes there, who plays a white nationalist on the internet, but cowardly denies the identity when shit hits the fan.
What is that about?
I posted a joke on the internet. I'm a live streamer.
You're like a YouTube channel? Or something?
Yeah.
You think you're a white supremacist?
I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican. I'm also Fuentes.
I know. I
I'm a white supremacist.
I saw that.
Yo, are we noticing yet how their march back into what we consider civil society has utilized the traditional elements of religion, politics, fear, and punditry? It doesn't matter that Nick Fuentes' voice shakes when faced with the confrontations that he calls for from behind a desk. He and his ilk are awarded within their community to help mainstream the racism that our society once rejected.
Charlie is the recipient of tonight's American Patriot Award for Christian honor and courage. Charlie, come join us here. Well, Charlie, we appreciate you taking the time. We know that you are one of the men in most demand. You've taken a lot of time out of your family and everything tonight. This award, on behalf of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, is presented to you and bestowed upon you in honor of a lifetime of service to God and country.
Charlie Kirk, who's never been a lawmaker in his life, just this month received an award from the same group, the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, that also celebrated Speaker Mike Johnson with their American Patriot Award for Christian honor and courage in Congress, which shouldn't only represent all Christians. It all results in an exchange of legitimacy from Donald Trump to the NACL there, to Mike Johnson, to openly hateful and influential pundits like Kirk, whose lifetime achievement is normalizing these kinds of views.
Is it the post-World War II German syndrome that they grew up just being told they're horrible people their whole life, so they just kind of cower in a corner and they're constantly being I mean, that's at least what I get when I meet with German conservatives. They're always like afraid to be too radical because they were told that their grandfather did something really bad. Ketanji Brown Jackson is what your country looks like on critical race theory. KBJ is your country on CRT. KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is an embodiment of the tyranny that we currently live under. What do you get when you start to platform and implement critical race theory into every single corner of American society, in your corporations, in your schools? Your children and your grandchildren are going to have to take orders from people like her. And what's amazing is that she kind of has an attitude, too. She feels entitled to this position. Why wouldn't she? It's not like she got this position based on her qualifications.
We've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now thinking about that.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
When I get on an airplane, you know, I want my pilot to be like, "Hi, this is Chad." Maybe like a little bit of a Southern accent.
Chad Buckworth here.
You know,
no, Chad.
Lake is fine.
This is my 31,000th hour. I'm kind of bored, honestly. Yeah. I don't want LaQuisha James.
They have that
like
pilot voice.
And she's just like, "Hi, ladies and gentlemen, pray for me."